It's almost dusk at the barn. Someone you trust, a friend, a trainer, maybe a professional with 20 years more experience than you, walks into your horse's stall to bring him out. He goes, he's well behaved, he follows. From the outside, nothing is wrong, but you're standing a few meters away, watching, and you see it. The way he's breathing, the slight tension along his top line, the ear that keeps flicking back, scanning, searching for something that isn't there. Then you walk in, and before you say a single word, before your hand even touches the lead rope, his entire body changes. The breathing slows. The top line drops half an inch. Both ears swivel toward you. There's a softness in his eye that wasn't there a moment ago. You haven't done anything. You just arrived. And you've always told yourself it's just a feeling, just your imagination. Just the kind of thing horse people say to romanticize their relationship with an animal that, at the end of the day, is a horse. But here's what no one tells you. What you're witnessing isn't sentiment. It's biochemistry. It's neuroscience. It's a measurable, repeatable, scientifically documented phenomenon happening between his nervous system and yours, in real time, every single time you step into his space. And the bond you have with that horse, the one that another rider, another handler, another expert cannot replicate no matter how skilled they are, isn't built on time or food or hours in the saddle. It's built on 7 specific mechanisms. 7 things that happen, mostly without your awareness, between your body and his. 7 layers of biological recognition that, once they're in place, no one else can break. And by the end of this video, you're going to know all 7. You're going to know exactly why your horse breathes differently when it's you. And you're going to know how to deepen each one of them on purpose. Because most riders spend a lifetime hoping for this kind of bond, the ones who actually build it understand something the others don't. Let's begin. For most of human history, the relationship between a person and a horse was explained the same way. You spend time together. You feed him, you ride him. Eventually, he knows you. The longer you're around, the deeper the bond. Simple, linear. Like a friendship measured in hours. And it's almost completely wrong. Because if time alone built bonds, every horse in every busy stable in the world would be deeply, exclusively bonded to the person who feeds him twice a day, every day, for years. And anyone who's worked at a boarding facility knows that's not what happens. Horses can be fed by the same groom for a decade and still walk past that person without a second glance, while turning their entire body towards someone they've only known for 6 months. So time isn't the variable. Something else is. If food built bonds, the horse would be magnetically drawn to whoever holds the bucket. And again, anyone who's spent time around horses knows the truth. A horse will eat from someone he doesn't trust. He'll take the carrot, he'll empty the feed pan, and he'll still be quietly waiting for someone else to walk through the door. Food creates a transaction. It does not create a bond. If skill built bonds, the most experienced rider in any barn would automatically have the deepest connection with every horse there. And we know that isn't true either. We've all seen the quiet teenager who can do something with a horse that no professional in the place can replicate. We've all seen the world-class rider who climbs onto a horse and finds that technically everything is correct. And yet, something is missing. The horse performs, the horse does not arrive. So if it isn't time, and it isn't food, and it isn't skill, what is it? This is the question that almost no one asks. And it's the question that, over the last 2 decades, scientists across Europe, North America, and beyond have begun to answer in ways that fundamentally rewrite what we thought we knew about the equine mind. Because what they've found is that the bond between a horse and a specific human is not a single thing. It's not one feeling, one memory, or one association. It's a stack. A layered, multidimensional, neurobiological architecture made of at least 7 distinct systems, each of which can be measured, each of which can be strengthened, and each of which, once fully active, becomes irreplaceable. Let's go through them, one by one. The first is the one that almost no one talks about, and it's the foundation of everything else. It's called cardiac coherence, and the science behind it is genuinely strange. Researchers at the HeartMath Institute, working in collaboration with equine specialists, discovered something that, when you first hear it, sounds impossible. The human heart and the horse heart, when in close proximity, can synchronize their rhythms. not metaphorically, literally. The electromagnetic field generated by the horse's heart, which by the way is roughly 5 times larger than the field generated by yours, can be measured several feet away from his body. And when a calm human enters that field, two nervous systems begin to talk to each other through a language older than language itself. Here's what that means in practice. When you walk up to your horse with your heart rate variability in a coherent state, meaning you're calm, present, regulated, not scrolling, not anxious, not somewhere else mentally, your horse's autonomic nervous system reads that within seconds, sometimes within milliseconds. His body begins to mirror yours, his parasympathetic system activates, his breathing slows, his tension drops. But here's the part that changes everything. Is when the same horse is approached by someone whose internal state is dysregulated, anxious, distracted, performing calm rather than feeling it, his nervous system reads that too. And it doesn't matter how soft their hands are or how trained their voice is. The horse is responding to a signal underneath all of that, a signal in the field, a signal in the rhythm. This is the first reason your horse breathes differently when you arrive. Your heart, over hundreds of repetitions, has become a frequency he recognizes. And every time you step into his space and you're truly there, not thinking about your inbox, not rehearsing a conversation in your head, just present, you're reinforcing that pattern. You are, neurologically speaking, becoming the rhythm his body relaxes into. The second mechanism is olfactory, and it's far more sophisticated than people realize. The equine olfactory system is roughly 50 times more sensitive than ours. Horses have a vomeronasal organ, the same structure that allows certain mammals to detect pheromones, hormonal shifts, and even subtle changes in human emotional state through scent. There's a growing body of research, including work coming out of institutions in France and the United Kingdom, suggesting that horses don't just recognize their humans by sight or sound. They recognize us by chemical signature. And that signature is not static. It changes with your stress level, your hormonal state, your diet, your sleep, even your emotions. Your horse, over time, builds an internal library of your normal scent profile. He knows what you smell like when you're calm. He knows what you smell like when you're sad. He knows what you smell like when something's off, which means he's been reading you all this time in a sensory dimension you don't have access to. A study from the University of Sussex looked at how horses respond to human emotional cues, and one of the findings that surprised researchers was the speed of recognition. Horses didn't need extended interaction to read a human's state. The information was already there, in the air around the person, before any visual or behavioral cue was registered. And this is part of why a horse will let one specific person approach during a vulnerable moment, when he's injured, when he's frightened, when he's in pain, and refuse another. He's not making a personality judgment, he's making a chemical one. The scent he associates with safety is the scent he allows in. The third mechanism is vocal recognition, and the depth of it is staggering. Léa Lansade, a researcher at INRAE in France, has spent years studying how horses process human voices. What her team has documented is that horses don't just recognize their owners' voices in the moment, they retain those vocal signatures across long periods of separation. Months, sometimes years. The horse stores your voice the way you store the voice of a parent or a childhood friend. It lives somewhere deep in the auditory cortex, indexed not as a sound, but as a meaning. And here's where it gets even more remarkable. Horses don't just recognize the words you say or the tone you use. They appear to recognize the specific way your voice modulates when you're addressing them, as opposed to when you're addressing another person or speaking to yourself. There is a vocal mode you slip into when you talk to your horse. You don't choose it. You don't notice it, but it exists, and he knows it. Which is why when another person tries to use the same words with him, in the same tone, with the same volume, it doesn't work the same way. The voice is wrong because the voice is yours. And the entire emotional context his brain wraps around that voice. The safety, the routine, the affection, the predictability is built around your specific vocal print, not the words. If this is already changing how you see your horse, subscribe to the Horse Soul. Because what's coming next is something most riders never realize their horse is doing for them every single day. The fourth mechanism is something researchers in equine ethology call postural mirroring. And once you understand it, you'll see it everywhere. Horses are prey animals. Their entire evolutionary history has been shaped by the need to read body language faster, more accurately, and with less margin for error than almost any other domesticated species on Earth. Their survival in the wild depends on being able to look at another horse, or another animal, including a human, and understand in fractions of a second what that body is about to do. Over time, when a horse spends consistent time with one specific human, he begins to map that human's micro-postures, the exact way you shift your weight before you ask for a turn, the almost imperceptible drop in your shoulders before you ask him to stop, the way your hips engage half a second before your hand moves. He learns it all, and he begins to anticipate, not from your cues, but from the patterns underneath your cues. But the deeper effect is something else. He begins to mirror you. When you're soft, he's soft. When you're rigid, he braces. When you breathe out, he breathes out. This is why two riders can give technically identical aids and get completely different responses. The cues are the same. The body underneath the cues is not. And this mirroring is bidirectional. Studies on equine-human interaction have shown that the regulation works both ways. He calms you, you calm him. The longer this exchange goes on, the more deeply both nervous systems wire to each other's defaults. The fifth mechanism is the one that shifted my own understanding of horses more than any other. It's called vagal co-regulation, and it builds on the work of Stephen Porges and his polyvagal theory of the nervous system. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in your body. It runs from your brainstem down through your throat, your chest, and into your gut. And it is the master regulator of what we experience as calm. When your vagus nerve is engaged, when you're in what Porges calls a ventral vagal state, your body is open. Your face is expressive. Your voice has prosody. Your breathing is deep. You are biologically in a state of safe connection. Horses have an analogous system. And what the science is now showing us is that two mammals in close, consistent, low-threat proximity can co-regulate each other's vagal tone. You influence his. He influences yours. Over hundreds of repetitions, your two nervous systems develop a shared baseline, a shared default, a shared way of returning to calm after stress. This is why when you sit with your horse on a hard day, something in you settles that nothing else seems to reach. It's not magic, it's mammalian biology. Two regulated systems anchoring each other. And it's why, when you're not present, when you're stressed, distant, tense, he can't find that anchor either. The bond is co-regulatory, which means it requires you fully in your body in order to function at its deepest level. The sixth mechanism is associative emotional learning, and this is where memory enters the equation. A team led by Karen McComb and Leanne Proops at the University of Sussex demonstrated that horses don't just remember humans. They remember the emotional content of their interactions with humans. And they store that memory in a way that influences future behavior. In one of their studies, horses who had previously seen a human display an angry facial expression in a photograph behaved differently toward that same human hours later, in person, even though the human's expression in the live encounter was completely neutral. The horse remembered. The horse adjusted. The horse made a decision based on stored emotional data. What this tells us is that every interaction you have with your horse is being filed, not just behaviorally. Emotionally, every time you arrive frustrated and take it out on him, even subtly, even just in your hands, that goes into the file. And every time you arrive, breathe, and choose softness, that goes into the file too. Over time, the file becomes a portrait, and the portrait becomes a prediction. He doesn't just know who you are, he knows who you tend to be. And he calibrates his nervous system in advance to that pattern. This is why a horse can become exquisitely bonded to one person and quietly, permanently guarded with another, even when both interact with him daily. The data is different. The portrait is different. The prediction is different. The seventh mechanism is the one that ties them all together, and researchers at institutions including Uppsala University in Sweden have started calling it predictable presence. Mammals, especially social mammals, bond to predictability, not to perfection, not to constant affection, to predictability. The brain of a horse, like the brain of a child, like the brain of any social mammal, learns who is safe by learning who is consistent. Consistent in arrival, consistent in tone, consistent in the energetic shape they bring into the room. This is the deepest form of trust an animal can offer. And it's not based on you being calm every time, or kind every time, or skillful every time. It's based on you being recognizable every time. The horse can handle a human who has hard days. What he cannot handle, neurologically, is a human who is unrecognizable from one visit to the next. The Uppsala research, along with parallel work coming out of the University of Guelph and the University of Rennes, shows that horses develop something functionally close to a secure attachment with specific humans, in much the same way that other social mammals do with their primary caregivers. And like all secure attachments, it's built on the same currency. Showing up, being readable, being the same person, in essence, across time. And this is the seventh thread that, woven together with the other six, becomes the bond no one else can break. Now here's where it gets practical, because the most important thing about all of this is that none of it is fixed. None of it is reserved for some special category of horse person. Every single one of these 7 mechanisms can be deepened on purpose. Most riders never do because they never know they exist. You now know. So let's translate. Cardiac coherence. The next time you walk to the barn, before you touch the gate, before you call his name, take 3 slow breaths. Long exhales. Drop your shoulders. Drop your jaw. Let your nervous system arrive before your hands do. This single habit, repeated over months, will change the field he steps into when he sees you. He will start matching that field, and you will both start meeting at a lower, calmer baseline than you used to. Olfactory recognition. Stop trying to mask it. The perfumes, the products, the changes, they make your scent print harder for him to track. He doesn't need you to smell good. He needs you to smell like you. Especially in the moments that matter, let him have access to your hand, your wrist, your neck. Let him gather the data. He's not being weird. He's reading the page. Vocal recognition. Talk to him, out loud, specifically to him. Not in the high-pitched performance voice you might use for a dog, but in the natural, low, conversational tone you'd use with someone you trust. Use his name. Narrate what you're doing. Tell him about your day if you want to. Build the auditory portrait. The more layered it becomes, the more powerfully it lives in his memory. Postural mirroring. Slow down your body. Most of us move around horses with the same hurried, fragmented body language we carry through the rest of our lives. Inside the stall, inside the round pen, inside the arena, slow your transitions. Let your shoulders settle before you ask. Let your weight arrive in the saddle before your hands do. He's reading you. Give him something coherent to read. Vagal co-regulation. Sit with him without an agenda, not to groom, not to ride, not to train. Just be in his space. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, with your phone in your pocket and your attention on your own breath. This is the practice almost no one does. And it's the practice that builds the deepest layer of the bond. You're not wasting time. You're laying neurological foundation. Before I leave you with the last piece of this, drop a comment right now. Tell me your horse's name and the one moment when you knew beyond any doubt that the bond between you was different from anything else. I read every single one. Associative emotional learning. Become aware of the file. Every time you walk into a space, you are adding to a record he is keeping. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest about what you're depositing. On the days you're frustrated, name it. Take a moment outside the stall. Let yourself land before you enter. The horse can forgive a hard day. What he cannot reconcile is a hard day disguised as a good one. Predictable presence. Be the same person. Not the same mood, the same person. Same tone of greeting, same kind of touch. Same pace of approach. Let him know what you are even when you can't always control how you feel. Predictability is not boredom to a horse. Predictability is love in a form he can metabolize. Do these 7 things even imperfectly, and something starts to happen that you cannot fake and no one else can replicate. The horse you ride begins to know you in a way that goes beneath his training, beneath his routine, beneath every other human in his life. His body starts to expect you specifically. His nervous system starts to drop into a particular shape only when you arrive. The bond stops being something you hope for and becomes something that's measurably, biologically present. Encoded in his cardiac rhythm, his vagal tone, his memory, his scent map, his vocal index, his postural mirror, his stored emotional record of who you have been to him. This is the bond no one else can break. Not because you've claimed him, but because you've built him a self that only fully lands when you're there. So let's go back to the barn. Dusk. The light is amber. Someone is leading your horse out of his stall and he's walking, but he's not arrived. His ears are scanning, his breathing is shallow. There's a tension along his back that he can't quite let go of. And then you step into the aisle, and before you say a word, his eye softens. The breathing deepens. Both ears come forward. The tension along his top line melts in a way that nobody watching from outside can quite explain. But you can. Because his heart has matched your rhythm thousands of times. Because his nose has cataloged your scent across hundreds of seasons. Because his ears hold a vocal print of you that no one else can wear. Because his body has mirrored yours into a shape that fits only your shape. Because his vagus nerve has co-regulated with yours into a shared mammalian baseline. Because his memory contains a portrait of who you have been to him on every visit, every weather, every mood. Because across time, you have become the most predictable, safe presence in his life. 7 mechanisms, 7 layers, 1 bond, and what that horse has with you no one else can replicate. Not because they're not skilled, not because they don't love horses, but because they are not you, and the bond is not built on what they bring into the stall. It's built on what your 2 nervous systems have woven together, breath by breath, over time. That is what you've been feeling all along. That is what was happening every time you said it was just a feeling. It was never just a feeling. It was 7 feelings, working at once beneath your awareness, holding a relationship together that the world will tell you is small, and that the science is now telling us is one of the most extraordinary cross-species bonds an animal can form. Take care of it. Deepen it on purpose. Stop apologizing for how much it means to you. And the next time someone watches you walk into the barn and sees your horse change before you've even spoken, let them wonder. You don't owe them the explanation. You and him already know. If this video found you at the right moment, share it with someone who loves their horse the way you love yours. They need to see this too, and I'll see you in the next one.